Here's the thing. You're not coming here for my hot takes about politics. You're coming here for my hot takes informed by public opinion, which tells us what the real political realities are. We're going to hear some political realities today, especially about this bill, because I think it's probably not what you think. It's nuanced. And so we're going to explore that. But why are we talking about this? I just like going to Twitter trending to see what is happening right now. And yeah, some stuff about Jay-Z, some people tweeting about the 4th of July, and some people tweeting about Timu Obama. Timu Obama. And who's that? Of course, it's Hakeem Jeffries, who at this very moment is talking on the floor of the House forever, taking that opportunity to just blab on. I don't know how many hours he's been going now. My understanding is that Mike Johnson thinks he has or will be able to obtain the votes. And so let's just listen.
I still don't know where Nano got that money from.
Oh, you forgot what he was going to say.
Honestly, she saved for it.
Riveting
it was designed
TV.
To help incentivize her grandchildren to keep going through all of the obstacles.
No.
And Mr. Speaker, I made the mistake.
No, we're not going to do this. Y'all leave if we stick to this. But yeah, like I said, Speaker Johnson has the votes, he said. I think time is now. President Trump is waiting with his pen. Today we will deliver the one big, beautiful bill to the president's desk. And the American people will finally get the relief they demand and deserve. This was just an hour ago, I think. I don't think he's, 2 hours ago now. I think this is going to happen. Unless something major happens, I think that they're going to cajole all of the people that they need into signing this. I know there's some people holding out. There's some people flipping votes. It's going to get signed almost certainly just in the next couple of days. Now, is it good or bad? We can talk about that a little bit, but the polling we're going to go into is talking about spending, because this is what Elon has been freaking out about, literally threatening to to create a third party, not just primary people, create a third party, the America Party, and go after Republicans for welching on their promises to cut spending. Now, what's in this thing? A whole bunch of stuff. A lot of new spending, $170 billion on border. A lot of, there are some cuts. My understanding is there will be some cuts, specifically some cut. I think they removed the Medicaid to illegals out of there. See, it's hard to even keep track of what's going into it. Obviously, it forces the impending tax cut expirations back out into the future, making Trump tax cuts permanent. It has a lot of other things in Trump's agenda that get codified into law as a part of it. But the issue is spending, and people are worried about spending. But will it affect Trump's numbers because of this poll? We're going to look at that because of this bill. We're going to look at that. I don't think so, though, because here's why. And this is the context everybody needs to understand. This is the last nearly 20 years of right direction polling, 19 years specifically. And you can see that little orange circle here. Something crazy is happening now. You can finally see it on the chart. This is a 20-year chart. This is unprecedented territory. Unprecedented territory. The country is headed in the right direction more now than ever in the last 20 years, according to voters. That is because Donald Trump and his promises, and people trust Trump. And so this is the problem, is that they don't, the one big beautiful bill was never branded well. I think that's why you need very specific and targeted bills. Hey, we're going to do this bill. We're going to deport millions of illegal aliens bill. Put all your border stuff into it. Then people will know, okay, cool. They passed something that's going to deport millions of illegal aliens. This thing's about taxes. It's about agenda items. It's about spending. It's about all kinds of stuff. And so I think what's going to happen is that people are going to be baffled with BS, and it's going to have no impact whatsoever. Again, though, people think the country's headed in the right direction. How could that be when they're concerned about spending, like we're going to look at? Well, it's because they are kind of used to Congress just spending. Even under Trump, Congress spent a hell of a lot under Trump. Deficit went up. And so I don't know. Maybe it's resignation to the fact that these problems won't get fixed. Maybe it's the fact that people have been promising economic implosion for decades now. Spending has not reined in and it hasn't happened yet. I think that's part of it. But Bill is not a winner. Now, we haven't specifically gone and asked a yay nay polling question on the bill. We're actually in the field with that now. Do you approve or disapprove of the fact that the bill is being signed into law? But according to these scummy pollsters, people oppose the bill. Now, I don't think these numbers would be too off. Like, I don't think that I'm going to see some massive majority supporting this bill, because already even Republicans are split on whether this will increase or decrease the deficit. Quinnipiac, 55% opposed. Fox, 59% opposed. Washington Post Ipsos, interesting, only 42% opposed. KFF, no idea who the hell they are. 64% opposed. Wow. Pew, 49% opposed. I don't want to predict what I think we're going to see. I think we're probably going to see a 45-45 with a significant number of not sures. That's my guess. Washington Post, though, I really wonder why they're the lowest. Regardless of the source here, this thing is not wildly popular. This is not a 60, 70, 80% bill. And people should want this, if not just to keep their taxes from being increased, to be honest with you. And so if it was like, hey, this is the avoid massive tax hike bill, maybe we would see better numbers, but it's not. That's not what they made it about. They made it about one big, beautiful bill. It's kind of like Biden's Build Back Better, which was complete flash in the pan. But let's talk about the polling. Let's talk about the context and the spending, because is this going to be a problem? Is Elon Musk going to launch a third party? Is the Republican Party going to tear itself apart because of the fiscal budget hawks? And I know Trump's plan is to grow us out of this. That might be possible. I question if it's possible if we're going to be deporting between 5 and 10 million Americans. Awful hard to grow the economy when you're getting rid of like a significant portion, like 1/3 of 1% just gone. That'll be a hit to your GDP for sure. So I don't know. And also, we have the issue with the pent-up housing crash, and will that cause knock-on consumer implosion? But I guess the numbers are good. We saw a good jobs report this morning. But let's go back a little bit and talk about spending, because Trump was elected because of in my opinion, the prices and the border. And so I think inflation is going to be stabilized. I think the border invasion is going to be fixed, reversed, completely done away with. 170 billion, including almost 50 billion for a wall. That's like 100 billion plus for other just random other stuff. Like, what? I might go join ICE. Seriously. That's a massive amount of funding. And we've talked about this. There's more efficient ways that they can do this. They can, like Trump said, tax remittances. That would be a really great start. Mandate E-Verify. Let's get it through Congress. Like, that would also do, like, this could be a completely new America. What does that look like? I don't know how many millions of people they're going to get rid of. Then they're going to actually look at Trump floated, going back and looking at the 2020 census. And we've talked about Seth Keshel and his great work on Substack. He thinks as many as 16 Republican seats were stolen because of the 2020 census. Probably something that you would want to fix. But this is from 2014, and this is just to give you an idea. A very basic question about spending. In reacting to the nation's economic problems, which worries you more? The government will do too much, 39%. The government will do not enough, 50%. So this is kind of a big government, little government question here. People expect the government to take positive action to fix the nation's economic problems. This is just 6 years post-financial crisis. In reacting to the nation's economic problems, should the government increase spending or decrease spending? Interesting. This whole idea of big spending liberals, that's not what kind of America we have here. Only 26% say increase spending, 60% say cut. 60% say cut. We are more than a 2-to-1 cut spending country. So right off the bat, What have you heard about? Oh, people aren't going to want their Social Security. People aren't going to want their Medicare cut. Yeah, if you talk about those individual line items, but if you have a massive bill and it's like, yeah, this is fiscal responsibility. We need to do this. Stuff's going to get cut. People want it cut. They say we're spending too much on foreign aid. They say we're spending on too much on waste, fraud, and abuse. Remember, 70% think our government is basically, they're angry at the level of waste, fraud, and abuse. A 60% cut spending country, including 59% of 18 to 39-year-olds. Well, there's one demographic group that wants to increase spending. Black voters. 47% of black voters want to increase spending to only 27% who want to cut spending. That's an uncomfortable signal. Wow. Eesh. Okay. Well, anyways, 83% of Republicans want to cut spending. 47% of Democrats want to increase spending, 35% cut. So not even half of Democrats want to increase spending. But what happens when a Democrat gets into office? Big spending bill, Green New Deal, infrastructure, jobs, crisis recovery. That's what the Democrats do. And the Republicans obviously help them. And liberals, 47%. Again, not even a majority. When 35% of Democrats say we have to cut spending, it's like, it's probably time, guys. And again, this is just from 2014. Look at this. Incomes over 200K want to increase spending the most. That's funny. Wham, we had some good crosstabs back then. Were you part of the Tea Party movement? Political class index? What was this from? This is cool. Some random overnight poll we did. Wow, with some awesome crosstabs. All right, so moving forward to more recent eras, 2023, which is more to blame for the size of the federal budget deficit? And remember, what we're trying to dispel here is the fact that petulant, greedy voters are the reason that our debt continues to skyrocket. And according to U.S. likely voters, the reason we have a massive deficit is because politicians are unwilling to reduce government spending. 66%. Only 21% say, no, it's taxpayers. No, it's the gimme dats. That's stunning. Completely defies all, I guess you would say, I think that's what people think. Like, this is literally, I think, a ubiquitous opinion in the media that voters do not want this stuff cut and will draw a line and hold anybody politically accountable who touches their Social Security or whatever their thing is. Whatever their thing is. 28% of Democrats say that it's taxpayers' unwillingness. 52% blame politicians. 77% of Republicans, 71% of independents. So a majority of everybody politically, 18 to 39-year-olds are less likely to say that it's politicians' unwillingness to reduce government spending, probably the naivete at work. And black voters are with white voters on that one. Which would you prefer? So now this question came right around the time of a debt ceiling negotiation. And this is my favorite question, one of my favorite questions. I use this all the time. In the media, a government shutdown is talked about like political Armageddon. They say it's the worst thing that could possibly happen. The optics are terrible, and they always blame Republicans. Always, 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 always. And even Chuck Schumer this time around used it as a hammer to try and get stuff out of the Republican Congress. And they called his bluff, I guess. I don't know why he folded, but voters want the government shut down. They think that that is totally a reasonable ask in order to get spending reductions. Which would you prefer? A partial government shutdown until Democrats and Republicans can agree to either cut spending or keep it at its current level, i.e. not kicking the can, 56%. Or should Congress spend more to avoid a partial government shutdown, 34%. So barely 1 in 3 voters say, no, spend more. We can't shut the government down. And it's half of Democrats. But 41% of Democrats are like, yes, shut it down. 73% of Republicans, 56% of independents, 56% to 30 say shut it down. We've had enough. It's too big. Kill it. Rip it apart. Now, liberals want more spending. It's funny how different liberals are on this question from Democrats than on prior questions. 2/3 of liberals say, no, keep spending. And what's weird too is the complete reversal from black voters wanting more spending, but also agreeing that we should shut it down, as opposed to kicking the debt ceiling can. Now, since 2014, I think there's probably been a lot of political changes in the black electorate. I think that's part of what we're seeing, but there might be something specific about that question as well. And lower income voters are more likely to say shut it down. Middle class, really, 64%, 56%, incomes 30 to 100K. And is there an education signal? Yeah, there is an education signal. Pretty much a majority of everybody except grad school degrees say shut the government down. So it's people with graduate degrees. So again, here's this idea, this Curtis Yarvin Cathedral, this idea of the highly credentialed class that loves the government and has super many college degrees and high incomes. And they worship the government. Look at Biden's strong approvers. Spend more. Do not shut the government down. Biden was in office, so maybe Biden's strong approvers think it would be a political hit for him. I don't know. But more numbers from 2023. Wow. 2 years ago, and it was only 31 trillion. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy how trillions fly? At the time, 76% of voters were at least somewhat concerned, 53% very concerned about the size of the national debt, including majorities of every demographic. But only 38% of Democrats were very concerned, 69% of Republicans, and 53% of independents. Only 22% of liberals very concerned. And I bet you Joe Biden's strong approvers are not concerned at all. Strong approvers only interesting. So the somewhat approves, politically disconnected, 24% very concerned. Strong approvers, 32% very concerned. And a majority, still 59% of Biden's strong approvers, still concerned about the size of the national debt. Interesting. Congress recently passed a new $1.7 trillion spending bill. Do you approve or disapprove of this new spending bill? And this is one of the major takeaways today, folks. 45% at least somewhat approved, 50% disapproved, only 37% strongly disapproved, only 58% of Republicans strongly disapproved, 73% of Democrats at least somewhat approved, but Democrats didn't really strongly approve. These numbers are tepid. And I can tell you, I don't think it hit his approval numbers at all. So again, Congress rammed through this massive spending bill. And this is like people did not like Joe Biden. Now his numbers recovered a little bit after the 2022 election, but he was still underwater probably about 15 points when this poll was taken. And it didn't move a damn thing. And it didn't change his political potential for winning or losing in the upcoming election. It didn't really matter at all. What happened is probably Congress took a hit. We weren't measuring it at the time. Probably Congress took a hit. But the thing about Congress is it's one institution that is not on the ballot. Individual congressmen and women are, sure. And I guess you could say in an ad, oh, this person voted for the one big beautiful bill. By the time 2026 rolls around, people are going to forget what's in it. I already forgot what's in this $1.7 trillion spending bill. But at the time, do you agree or disagree with this statement? The $1.7 trillion spending bill is a monstrosity and disaster for the country. And people are like, oh, it is? Okay, sure, I agree with that. 61% to only 32% who disagree. 45% strongly disagree. But again, his approval numbers didn't move. So I think it's like when you have a border invasion and when you have Trump come and fix it, People assume they're going to get garbage stuff out of Congress, and they want it to change. They voted it for it to change. They say overwhelmingly that they want massive change in Washington, D.C., and not business as usual, but they have no recourse. They have absolutely no recourse. All right, so here's some prior polling about the big, beautiful bill. Again, we're in the field now with new questions, but now an even larger number are concerned about the national debt. So as it gets bigger, the number of people concerned goes up. Now we're up from, was it like 76% to now 84%, 53% very concerned. That's high. Republicans overwhelmingly concerned, which is interesting because Democrats weren't that concerned under Biden, but now the Democrats are super concerned. Isn't that weird? Republicans are equally concerned, even more so concerned under Trump, but Democrats were not concerned at all under Biden, not nearly as much. There was a majority, but I think it was in the 30s. Now it's in the 40s of very concerned, 46%, with a 83% total at least somewhat concerned, which is almost as much as the 85% of Republicans. Interesting. So Democrats only care about spending under Trump. And look at how concerned liberals are now all of a sudden. It was up from 22 to 52% very concerned about the size of the federal deficit. I'm going to tweet that. That's ridiculous. That is the mental double standard at work. It's rare that we can catch it so explicitly, so beautifully and explicitly. People think the one big beautiful bill is going to increase debt, not reduce the national debt. And again, Trump wasn't elected to reduce spending. He was elected to fix our economy. But whether people want to call this a spending reduction bill or not, it will not be effective. Because 46% say that this thing will increase the national debt, 23% say reduce, and Republicans are split on this. 30% increase to 34% reduce. And people don't approve of the way that Congress sets federal spending levels. That's like obvious. So maybe that's not interesting. Only 12% strongly approve, but 43% at least somewhat approve, probably driven by Republicans. More so than Democrats, yeah. The Democrats aren't too far off. So it's going to get through. It's not going to cut spending meaningfully. We're going to have probably $20 trillion more debt 10 years out than we were going to otherwise have had if a different spending cut bill had been pushed through. And I think they could have done it. We're married to this reconciliation process. We're married to these stupid parliamentarian rules. We're married to all this stuff. Republicans fail time and time again to do the things that voters really want by political realities. And voters want political unrealities. Voters want you to break a few rules. Voters want you to tell the parliamentarian to pound sand. You see, they wanted the government shut down. And the government won't do it. That's the thing. It's like we see this performative BS. Nobody thinks you're doing a good job. Whatever. They'll get the bill through. Trump might get a little bit of a pickup. Here's today's numbers. Down to net +1. And people are like, well, why is Trump approval falling? And I think it's reverting to the mean. And it tends to cycle back and forth. I don't know why. I don't know why this random walk tends to swing back and forth. But presumably he was as high as Trump +8 back with the LA riots. And that could have been driven by how bad the Democrats were being at the time, or it could have just been driven by a random walk. I don't think that it's going to hang around here. I think it's probably going to go back up. We got July 4th. We got this bill coming back. We're probably going to see an upswing, but maybe not. I don't know. We had one bad overnight. There was like a 46 that drove this down while another high one fell off. But 49% approved to 48% disapproved. That's not too dissimilar from what he did in November. So essentially what we're saying here is he's lost zero support. And Republican total approval is still pretty high, 83%. Democrats kind of lower, 24%. He's underwater 10 points with independents. Independents poll fiscally like Republicans in my polling. And so I think that that's probably a spending signal. and as well as a Middle East signal. Probably some holdover for that. I would expect to see independent approval for Trump rebound a little bit, driving these numbers back up to probably the +3, +4 range. That's my call. Probably what's going to happen. And this, unfortunately, for the people who are watching, it does not look like Trump's second term is going to cross Obama's first term net approval rating by July 4th. It's just not going to happen. It could have happened. It's still, if we have a really strong night of polling tonight for Donald Trump and he gets like a 55 or something, we might wind up with a net +3. It might put us right there, but I don't think we're going to report. Do we report approval tomorrow? I don't know. I should probably know that. I don't even know if we're polling tonight. Well, I think it will cross with the very next print. So, in spirit, Trump approval bested Obama approval. And this is great because this was literally like the day yesterday when we found out that Obama like literally colluded with Clapper and Brennan and Comey. That's a wild thing. I have that article up. We'll take a look at this. But yeah, so big, beautiful bill. I think it's just going to be something that comes and goes, and people will say, oh, look back at Trump's term, and there was all this spending. And maybe the growth will get us out of it or not. But I don't think it's going to be the end of him politically. I don't think any failure is individually going to be tied to any representative unless they betray Trump and he has him primaried or pulls an endorsement or whatever. It's not going to, this is what Congress does. It's to be expected.